a lot of you might not know this, but before Te Araroa, I was very much into running. It took me a while to get there. I was always told that I was not a runner. I was always told I was strong, but not a runner. But I still enjoyed it, even when it was hard, even when I didn't know what I was doing, even when I didn't have the right clothes. To me, it felt freeing to go as fast as my legs could go and push myself and get to the end and feel like I accomplished something physically. When I started running as part of my fitness routine, I was still in Canada, and I remember I worked 12-hour shifts, and the only time that I could foresee doing it was to get up first thing in the morning at 6 o'clock and run. And for me, I was not a morning person at that point. And so I didn't start by turning on the alarm, getting up and going for a run. I started by simply forcing myself to wake up at 6 o'clock and just get used to waking up at that time. And then gradually, when I got used to that, then I would get up and go, okay, now I need to get my workout clothes on and make an effort to get out of bed at 6 o'clock. And I kept taking little tiny steps like that until I was at the point where running at 6 o'clock in the morning was no big deal. The other challenge with that is I started this whole process during the colder months in Canada. So it was dark and it was freezing. But I knew this was something I needed to do for myself, and this was the only time that I could do it during the day because of my schedule. And so I got up and did it. And before long, I was running for nearly an hour every morning in the snow, in the ice, in the dark, before work. And I made it happen. And I fell in love with it. I got to a point where you get over that resistance within yourself that this is a challenging thing to do. And I got to the point where I felt like I was flying and I was free. It instilled in me two things. It instilled in me that I actually enjoy waking up early in the morning and that I can get a lot done at that time. And it instilled in me a love of running that I've never lost. Now, I've done running all before Te Araroa. Nothing like noteworthy. But I did it for myself. And after Te Araroa, my fitness had skyrocketed to the point where I finished the trail and relocated to Hanmer Springs and did their half marathon shortly after with zero extra training. And I did it in barefoot shoes because at the time I thought they were the coolest thing ever. And it was a trail run for a half marathon. But I did it, and I was so proud of myself to have accomplished that, but also realized that I don't run so I can create a personal best amongst other runners. I run purely for myself. And for me, running has always been a bit of a meditation, but it took until that half marathon to realize that. And I think that's a good reminder for other people who might have goals where you are shaping them on the perspective of what the general population does. You don't have to do that. You can create goals in your own way that work for you. And if you're doing a goal to start running, you don't have to do it so that you can run a race. You can do it just purely for yourself. Or do it so you can run a race. Running races are great. I discovered I prefer organizing races as opposed to running them myself, but everyone's different. But since Te Araroa, I was so blessed to live in Hanmer Springs where I could trail run every single day. So I would wake up and run 10 kilometers or about an hour every morning through the mountain trails. And it is some of the most wonderful core memories that I had in my time there. That is something that this year I'd love to get back to for myself. And that's part of me reclaiming who I know that I am at my core. I'm currently in the process of rebuilding my own life. The advantage I have is that in a lot of aspects, I've had to do this multiple times over the years. So I kind of have an idea of what that looks like, and I have an idea of the challenges that I might face. But this is the first time where I am finally putting into practice what it means to truly own who I am and not shrink for anyone that's out there. And that's scary. It also means that I have to recognize the path that I've chosen up until this point and all the areas where there was opportunity for me to stand strong in who I am. And instead of doing that, I chose to shrink and be small and appease other people's needs and expectations than my own. And that's hard too. Right now on this walk, I managed to get myself to the point where I started to run. And that sounds simple, but if you haven't been running for a while, you know just how painful it can be on your body and your mind to get yourself beyond walking and into a run. And for me, I was thrilled because I have been dreaming of being at this point physically for years now. And as exciting as that is, it's also hard to come to terms with because it meant for years I had chosen a life where I was not doing something I love. And I truly love running, not this kind of running. I really truly love trail running. And I miss that terribly. And it's something that I've excused for a long time. And now I'm in a place where I don't want to excuse it anymore. I want to have that part of my life. I want to get back into doing that. And having just entered 2026, I'm sure there's a few of you out there that have created goals that you started on January 1st or January 2nd, and you went gung-ho on them. And now we're a few days into the new year, and maybe you've hit a roadblock, or maybe you've realized that this is going to be a harder journey than what you first thought. Or maybe you've come across criticism for even choosing the goal that you've chosen. It could be any number of things, but often shortly into the new year is when people kind of give up on their goals and say, maybe I expected too much of myself, or maybe it's just not realistic for this year. And I want to challenge you to think of what it felt like to envision that goal you had and really picture it in your head, achieving it, doing it, having it being part of yourself, and what that meant to you. And I want you to really consider that instead of your goal being unrealistic or unachievable or too challenging to do right now, maybe your goal is exactly what you need. And maybe your goal is something that's been rolling around in the back of your head for some time because you know you need to do it. And you know that this goal has always been part of you, and that if you were to do it, this would be you shining brightly for the world, whatever that means. So for me, I don't know how I'm going to make it happen, but this year I want to get back into trail running, and not just once in a blue moon. I want to be doing it consistently, weekly, daily, even if I could. That would be amazing. Am I going to do that here in rural farmland? No. It's going to have to mean some changes on my part to make it happen. And I don't know how that's going to look, but I do know that the person I was not too long ago, that person that I was overweight, was tired, was living the smallest that I could possibly be in order to appease other people's expectations. And was it working? No. I was constantly being criticized anyway. I was constantly being challenged whether what I wanted to do with my life was good enough. And I kept chipping away at myself to make myself smaller. Each time I chipped away at myself, I put that piece of me in a box, kind of like it was going into storage. And I hoped that maybe the next day, the next year, whatever, that I'd be able to take that piece and reclaim it. But life doesn't work like that. If you're in an environment where you're people pleasing, there is going to be no one around you to say, oh, here, be more of yourself. If you're with people that expect you to people please, you're going to be in a vicious cycle where you continue to do it until there's nothing left of you. And that person that I was not too long ago was that person. I don't recognize her. I didn't recognize her when I looked in the mirror, but I ignored that. And I hoped that things would get better. Things didn't get better until I stood up and I made the decision that enough was enough. And I made the decision that despite whatever criticism I might get, I'm going to be me. And that was hard because it meant a lot of changes over 2025. It meant a lot of reflection. It meant even a lot of therapy. But it got me to a place where I was able to see the person I've always been and reclaim her and find a path forward where I can be her every single day, every single minute, and continue to shine. And I'm inviting you to do the same. So, if you're a person that's just starting out, if you're a person that's rebuilding your life, if you're a person who's been people pleasing for years and you don't know how to get out of it, or if you're a person that has goals so much bigger, this is the place for you. So if you're in the process where 2026 is your year to make it the best year you can for yourself, you've come to the right place, because I'm right there with you, walking alongside you, one step at a time, little bits, chipping away at our goals until we become something that is so vastly different from who we started off with as a people pleaser, that this year is going to be amazing. And I'm so excited for it. I'd love to hear what your goals are. I'd love to hear what you have in store for 2026. It doesn't matter how big it is or how much you don't see the path ahead. I promise you there is a way, and I promise you that you can do it one step at a time.